Oh, here we go.
Moot point, an issue which no satisfactory answer is found.
This is all a moot point.
The meatloaf! We want it now! The meatloaf! Ma, the meatloaf!
Like a cow's opinion.
I've had it with this dump! We got no food, we got no jobs, our pets' heads are falling off!
This is all a moot point. Doesn't matter.
Diving in.
Dive right in.
Welcome to the Moot Points podcast, everybody. As always, Patrick Moot in the AMP Radio studios. Also with Pat this week is one of my best friends, known him forever, back from the dirty, gritty comedy days of Seattle, Washington, comedian Lukas Seeley. Lukas, thanks for hanging out. I told you I would hit random sound effects every once in a while.
I love it, man.
I was like, I hope that's the splash.
The splash one.
Gonna dive. Usually I hit Pat with like these when he's being an idiot.
To which I say inappropriate.
I know.
Hashtag too soon.
Okay, fine. Comedian Lukas Seeley from Montana originally. Now, I generally don't like to do the thing where we interview comedians about stuff, about their life. That gets done so much in podcasts where people are like, hey, tell us how you got started.
Telling jokes.
But Montana's, that's weird. It's too weird. And when I met Lukas in Seattle, roughly like 2005.
Yeah, it's like over 10 years ago, dude.
When we all started comedy at the same comedy club, Giggles Comedy Club in the U District in Seattle, which was basically the most ideal situation for comedians, young comedians, and the least ideal situation for crowds. Because we were just so new, we had no idea what we were doing.
I still remember the first time I saw you because Jeff
fell in love.
Jeff Dye was like, yo, you got to check out this dude named Brian Moot. I'm like, oh, word? And then you went up. I was like, yo, he's funny.
Oh,
and then
word?
We just all started hanging out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it was weird because we all had different styles. That was really fun about it. Like Jeff Dye he's done really great things. We've talked to him on the podcast before. He's 2 seasons of Better Late Than Never. He's got a bunch of other stuff coming out that I don't even think I could talk about that he told me about the other day. He's always on the road. That's the funniest part. He was like, you're moving to LA, dude. We're gonna hang out all the time. And I'll text him, and it's like our schedules are completely opposite. Because he's on Wednesday, like let's get messed up tonight. And I'm like, I gotta get up at like 3:45. Are you out of your mind?
Or not get up at all. Just power right through like a real professional.
I've only done that one time.
I know. When he moved into his new place, he lives it's a 12-minute Uber
from your place.
From my place, and we've seen each other once.
I guess so, though. That's the funny part. It's like we all worked so hard from, I was a special ed teacher part-time, and then I also worked in a warehouse, an interior design warehouse. You were selling Auto Trader stuff, right?
I was selling advertising, yeah.
Loosely selling advertising.
Well, we didn't sell like cars. It was just we worked with the dealers. Like, hey, you should buy some advertising for us so we can help you sell your cars.
That was back in the day. Like the internet was kind of not. People still needed assistance to sell things. Like, so was it CarMax or Auto Trader?
Auto Trader.
Auto Trader. So Auto Trader at that time kind of had a big stranglehold on the market, and then all these other competitors started coming in, and then it's like people could post their own cars on there. Last time I went on one of those auto trading websites, I needed to take a nap. I just couldn't figure out what I was doing. There's too many options, and I don't trust any of them.
They're actually owned. They were based out of Atlanta. Cox Enterprises.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
Well.
Take that.
Fun fact.
Well, no,
just when you thought you weren't going to learn anything on this podcast.
Oh, wait, hold on. What is that? Lucas,
Boom.
you got to tell us that again over this.
Autotrader.com. Owned by Cox Enterprises. Home, Atlanta, Georgia.
Doesn't sound so much more
Justin.
official.
There it is.
We've also got
Food for your brain.
We've also got another thing that we
Brain
do.
food.
If you ever get on a real rant about something that you hate, we do a stomp clap rant.
Yep.
Pat will get on one at one point. You'll see his vein pop out of his head and stuff.
Yep. It will.
Well, the cool thing about
It's fun.
Giggles when we started back then is Jeff was like a server at Red Robin.
I can't
our other
imagine.
friend.
I can't imagine how good
How-
his tips were. If it was a share tip scenario, I would talk to my manager every day and be like, "Yo, Jeff isn't pulling his weight. There's no way. There's no way that he's getting tipped a higher percentage than anybody else."
He's the dude who.
Be like, no, you don't want the Whiskey River Burger. It's kind of medium.
No, he's that good-looking guy. He's that good-looking guy who just has that kind of like excited energy that comes over where immediately someone at the table is annoyed. Like
Oh,
one
yeah.
person, whether it be like a mom who's like he's hitting on my daughter, or a
Sure.
boyfriend who's like he's hitting on my girlfriend,
Yeah.
or somebody.
And then he's like, "Why are you annoyed, man? What's the problem? You don't like it here? Let's talk about it."
and then you're right. They would split the tips, and he'd make $1 million.
Yeah.
But the cool part was that we all had such different comedy styles too. So and the part where I say it was the worst for crowds ever is because basically the four of us, Lucas, Jeff, Andrew, and I, we basically just ran the club. That's what we did. We just ran the club. Sometimes I'd serve beers. I'm not legally allowed to do that. I
Sit
would
in the green room, just open bottles. Drink.
Oh, yeah.
The green room that was the green room.
It was a liquor cabinet.
Is what it was.
A liquor cabinet in the back.
With the chair in it.
I remember, so Terry Taylor, one of my, I love that man. Like as an uncle type guy. Like he just was the guy who started all of our careers and did nothing but let us, run the light on open mics, liberally run the light. I mean, when was the last time we do an open mic and
Tell us what run the light means. Brian.
oh, you're right. Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, you're
Okay,
welcome.
hold on. I'll tell you what run the light means.
Yeah, why don't you
Give me a
do that?
second. Okay, hold on.
This
Hold on,
just
hold on.
in, everyone. A little brain food for you.
Running the light is a comedy thing where in the back of the room you get a light telling you that you should wrap it up respectably, probably in 1 or 2 minutes. Running the light means you saw that light, you gave that light the finger, and you just kept telling your jokes, whether you were doing good or doing bad. And the comedian behind you was probably seething the whole time because it just meant their night was going to be long.
Brain food.
So we used to do stuff like that. I remember once my favorite thing was when I was serving beers for like the Greg Giraldo weekend. Greg Giraldo, God rest his soul, great comedian, passed away years back. I was serving beer and I was taking the tips, and he tried to take a cut of my tips. I'm like, You're not
Really?
even paying me to bartend right now.
Was he being for reals too?
Oh, he was being for real. He did the thing where he acted like he wasn't being for real, and then he kind of was like, you'd tell he was a little bit irritated. What was the first night of you first? You did your first stand-up spot in Billings, Montana, right?
Yeah, it was. They had this like open mic competition on a Wednesday.
That's a hot night.
Hot night.
Hot
Hot night.
And if you're the funniest person, you'd win $100. And I was playing college ball at the time.
College football, by the way.
College football.
Lucas is a
running back. What's up?
If he was playing basketball, it'd be an ethnic upset right now.
For you listeners, I'm Asian.
Yeah.
Almost any sport.
Yeah, but you should just, man, Lucas is getting shredded again. For a while, he wasn't shredded. But,
Nah.
man, in college, this dude he looked like one of the bad guys in one of the
Any
Van
kung
Damme
fu
movies.
movie.
Yeah, in Van Damme. No, Bloodsport. Bloodsport specifically. You look like the guy who threw dirt in Van Damme's eyes.
I wanted to be in Fast and Furious. That's what I was going for.
I mean, you still could.
I probably still could, yeah.
You going out for that for
They'll
sure.
never stop making those movies, so you don't have to worry about it.
know.
Ever. That clock will never run
$1
out.
trillion. So what was it like? It was a bar, like a dive bar, right?
Yeah, well, they had they did improv. And so in between improv and their dollar beer nights or whatever it was, they wanted to have something to keep the people there. So it was an open mic stand-up competition.
So, improv definitely isn't going to keep them there.
Yeah, no.
And then I just did it, and I won that first night. I was like, oh, this is cool.
Look, this is how it's gonna be forever,
This
man.
is easy. It's so
$100?
easy.
I'm just gonna travel city to city.
If I'm making $100 for not being
$700 a
good,
week.
Yeah,
and I'm still making that $100.
well, that's the funny part, man. When you start doing this stuff and then you start getting paid. I remember I was substitute teaching, and I would make like $125 a day to substitute teach, and I'd make like $110 to do some awful show in the middle of Washington. It took me like 7 hours to drive to, and I'd be like, "You're an idiot if you're gonna take that substitute teaching gig 3 blocks from your house. You drive 7 hours to tell jokes in some weird bar with a bunch of dead animals mounted on the back wall." But that's the funny part about it. You don't even realize, you don't even know what money is when you have your first job. You just think you're never gonna be poor again.
Yeah.
Like you're
Well,
just,
and you start to think that there's this trajectory that you're on, where it's like, okay, well, if on one job I can get $100, then on the second job, let's say 2, and then the third, 3, and then 4.
You're just like, oh, all I need is if I get this, and that will lead to this, and that will lead to this.
Sequentially,
and
it will
then
all
boom,
build
I'm
on itself, and I'll be
making hella
crushing
money.
TV special.
Boom, no,
what did your
not at
parents
all.
say when you started doing like non-traditional career paths? Because your parents came from Laos.
Yep.
And like had to learn English in Billings, Montana of all places, and are now like wildly successful restaurant owners and like just entrepreneurs.
Man, well, I went to school, got my business degree, and so then when I moved to Seattle, got that business job, and so they just thought stand-up was, it's just something fun he likes to do.
It's like a presentation.
It's like
Yeah,
video
yeah.
games.
It's like video games.
Yeah. And then when I got laid off and decided to move to L.A. and become a comedian full-time, my dad, I was like, yeah, so, we were eating at the Olive Garden because that's fancy in Billings, Montana.
All right, that's
It's a good place to have a family feud.
Yeah. And I was
throwing
like,
breadsticks.
I'm like, guess
free.
what, guys? You can tell your friends that your son's stand-up comedian.
famous comedian.
My dad looks at me and goes, I'm going to tell my friends that you're unemployed. I'm like, whoa. He was mad. We got in a
Perfect.
fight
I can
in
see your
Olive
dad.
Garden.
I see your dad be mad. Your parents, every time I've played Billings, Montana, because Lucas has set up rooms there. I mean, I played Billings, Montana when Lucas wasn't at the point in his career where he could set up rooms and like sell out places. I played a Tribble run, and Tribble runs are these weird one-night runs through Montana and Idaho and Oregon and all sorts of places. And I played that one time. That was not the most fun I've had in Montana. Every other time I've been to Montana, it's been the greatest shows ever, followed by the worst mornings of my life.
Oh, sure.
Oh, the worst morning. Waking up in the wrong hotel rooms numerous times. And not even like ones where I'm like, woo, boy, I got to go.
Like, this isn't like nothing happened here bad. There's just other people
Every
staying
time
here
Moote's
and
in
they don't know me.
Billings, I wake up and I'm always like, where's Brian at?
Yeah. I've really set the bar for myself for just complete and total chaos and debauchery. I've never been to Montana, and like we had one day in Montana. Do you remember when you picked me up at the hotel and I was so sick? We were trying to eat at one of your family's restaurants. That's really nice. I think it was like a hibachi restaurant, and I had to go outside and it was snowing, and I just had to like let snow hit my face. I was about to throw up in Lucas's parents' restaurant, and I can't have that happen because I always felt like Lucas's parents, because they're such hard workers, that they when they would like house us and feed us for these just weekends of just chaos in Montana, that there's no way, because they were so sweet, but I was like, there's no way when we leave they're not like, thank God, these train wrecks.
I wish I could have stuck around a while.
They
and
actually
helped us out
like
with
it.
nothing.
They always, every time when comics come in for our monthly show, they always, if I'm there, they always ask if the comic is staying at the house. But it's only, I think you guys were like the last. You and Jubal were the last people to actually stay there.
Jubal Flagg, a radio personality out of Seattle that I worked with when I was in Seattle, kind of across the hall from him, and he's got a nationally syndicated show now. He's doing great. That was in the morning that both of us missed our flights. I missed my flight. I didn't even know. I had the girl that stayed over wake me up. She woke me up, and she was like, hey, aren't you supposed to be gone? And I looked at my phone, and it was like 7:30. My flight left at 6:10. I was like, yeah, that's not
I missed it by a mile.
And then she's like, oh, you should hurry to get to the airport. I was like, why? There's really no point in this. I'm never going to make it. Another time I missed my flight because of snow in Denver, and then the next day, these dudes took me out shooting. Did you go on that shooting adventure?
No.
Oh, you just set me up with these dudes, right?
Yeah.
I went out into the middle of nowhere. They said it was railroad country, like owned by the railroad or leased or whatever. And we had like a shotgun with a 20 gauge clip in it. And I just destroyed like 9 pumpkins and like a Twilight cardboard cutout. And they're like, you believe they're trying to make this illegal? And I'm like, yeah.
And you guys went out to the place, like usually like shooting ranges are like in a building and it's closed. You guys went out to like the country, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sure. That kind
Bam.
of thing.
A little bit of a delay today on this thing.
Stupid pumpkins. Were they scary pumpkins or just regular ones?
No, they were just, I just felt like this was the most first world thing I've ever done. We're shooting.
The most first world.
We're shooting food. We are like, they brought like, watermelons and pumpkins, watermelons, pumpkins.
You guys are bad farmers.
They'd literally throw up a cantaloupe up in the air, and we just take like giant, dirty, hairy handguns and just try.
You guys were shooting like 44. Did you guys shoot a Desert Eagle too?
Yeah, we shot everything.
Oh, yeah.
I shot that. I shot.
Scary. That's why I didn't go. Guns scary, man.
I'm telling you, man.
They should.
I have
they
a
should.
photo of myself.
Werewolf scary.
I have a photo of myself, and I'm trying to like load a shotgun,
that's
and
a
I
great
have
photo.
my thumb on the trigger while I'm loading it, and my glasses are on sideways, and I can't, and I just look like such a jackass.
Noob.
And I'm like, this is why I don't have guns, because I'm like, hell, where's this shotgun
scary.
clip go?
I'll never make fun of Lil Wayne for shooting himself ever again.
I'm
This is
surprised when I go to Montana. I'm surprised that you made it out.
Me
Like,
too.
I'm surprised you made it out of that town, because it just seems like one of those small towns where you're just going to do nothing but get in trouble. and you could achieve a level of success that's pretty fun. You could be, known around town doing comedy or doing whatever, and just be like, it's fine. I can live
People
out.
get very very content. I think a lot of I don't think it's just in Billings. I think it's just like in certain towns where people they just get comfortable, and then they just they get married, they have kids, and wow.
And then the rest of the world is what sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I see people back on Woodby Island where we grew up, and I'll see them, and I'll be like, what have you been up to? And they'll be like, oh, no, nothing, just married a girl from high school, and now I work for Dad, and, it's pretty sweet. What are you doing? Still in L.A.? I could never live in L.A. All the traffic.
Yeah, it's always
and
a
people. And it's like,
everybody's fake there, man.
Everyone's so fake. It's like, you work for your girlfriend's dad. What is that, your dream? That was your dream? That was it?
The whole fake thing about Los Angeles, to me, I always laugh at because it's just an easy argument to make when you can't.
When you've never been there.
Well, also you don't have the personal work ethic to just stick at something. They're not fake. Everyone's just driven. Yeah. You're gonna find people who are just only interested in hanging out with you because they want you to help them with their career. But you've probably done the same thing.
But you're probably hanging out with them for the same reason,
right?
And that's called collaborating.
It's just a town where you
screwing each other over. It doesn't matter.
I mean, you don't move here. You don't move to Hollywood.
It's the hustle, baby.
You don't move to Hollywood just to live your life. You move to Hollywood to make it in an entertainment
career. It's not a mediocre type
Right. I mean,
situation.
you could move to Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, some of those beach towns, and some of those towns are nice for just living. You have a nice corporate job.
Yeah, you don't live in Hollywood or certain parts of the valley just to live. I mean, there's some people I know, but
they end up just living, but they came here to do something different, and then they end up kind of tapping out on the whole dream. I can't stand that. And people are like, they're fake. I mean, there's fake people in every town.
Everywhere.
I lived in Atlanta for 2 years, and I love most of the people I met in Atlanta. I also hate a lot of the people I met in Atlanta because every city's going to have that crew of fake people who are they're just selfish. They're in it for them. And it's not that they're fake. They just don't have time to care about what you're doing. So, usually it's the corporate-y guys, the guys that are working in investment banking, and they're running around in their, boat shoes and their small khaki shorts way too early in the year, and they're ordering Manhattans that they are trying to shoot because they don't know how they know to order a fancy drink, they just don't know how to drink it. Man, those guys are fake to me, but I'm sure they got friends. So you just find your people.
You know what's I've found really funny recently, and you might have noticed this in Montana, is Montana and Seattle and those areas, it's not the South. Yet I know all these people that I grew up with in high school who now speak with a Southern accent on Woodby Island.
Really?
I swear to God. And they'll
it's
be
just country.
All these people are so fake, man, down in L.A. It's like, what is that? What are you talking about?
You're right. You know who does it is my brother.
Really? Why?
Really?
My Asian brother. Dude.
But does he have an accent too?
He speaks with a little twang, and because
he's twanging.
He owns probably 15 guns.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Listens to
that
country
Luke
music.
Bryan, man.
He's like,
what a performer.
Florida Georgia Line, man.
Yeah, what a performer that guy is.
I mean, it's weird to hear him go from sometime I think, why are you going down there? I'm like, whoa, where did that come from?
You're all over the map, dude.
That's funny.
You're all over the
What
map.
South are you from? Laos? South Laos?
South Asia or South?
How dare you ever call someone from L.A. fake when you're speaking in an accent, living on an island with your parents?
You know what
so far from the South. You couldn't, in Seattle, you could not be any further unless you're in fucking Canada.
I know what I realized. It's not a Southern thing anymore. It's a country thing. It's a country drawl, and a lot of it comes from hearing country music. And now with media and TV and things so widespread that people in the country just start to talk like that. Because when I moved to Atlanta,
that's how I speak on Duck Dynasty. So why wouldn't I?
Right, that a little bit of
beard man.
It's the emphasis on different letters. And when I moved to Atlanta, I was speaking. People were like, "Are you from the South?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm not from the South." And they're like, "Oh, you have a weird accent." I'm like, I get told I have a weird accent everywhere I go. Because when I lived in Boston for 5 years, you pick up this weird. You chop your words a little faster. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's so East Coast.
It's true. And I think it's even if you enjoy a show. Like, I used to watch that alligator hunting show.
With Steve Irwin?
No.
River Monsters?
No. With Troy, I was like, shoot him in the head.
Oh yeah, where they're literally hunting alligators for food. For food, yeah, and they are like Creole South. Like,
yeah,
go do them in the head.
Yeah, make sure you shoot them in the head.
Like they gotta put
It's so hard not to want to talk like that after you watch that.
They-
show.
they
I
put
do that
s-
with Peaky Blinders. That's why I had to stop watching. Because be like, just mumble things.
It's always such a slap in the face when on a TV show they put subtitles on someone speaking English, right?
Sure.
Tune them in the heat, and they're like, "What did you say? Tune them in the heat."
He actually said tune him in the head. That's what he said.
So I wanted to talk about this too before we get too far into other things. So Billings, Montana has now become like it's gone from a night where one time, and I wish I had the sound queued up, but I don't. Where
I know it's exactly what you're talking about.
where they play like, "Get out of your mind," and every time they did that, I'd take a shot of Jaeger.
It all started with you, dude.
Yeah, it probably was me.
It was because I think we had been producing. We started producing our first show in 2010, and you came. I think we had done 4 shows at that time, and you came just as a favor to me, and I was like, dude, it's summertime. We just need someone good.
Yeah,
we can't pay you a lot. You're like, yeah, sure.
Whatever, I want to come hang out. Also, when we go there, you may not pay. At the time, you weren't paying a lot, but we were eating like kings. Like we were going to all your parents' restaurants
Yeah.
and just cleaning
Still
them
that
out.
way, yeah.
I mean, I saw a picture of myself. I know what show you're talking about. I saw a picture of myself, and I'm wearing, like, I'm about 235 right now. I'm about 30 pounds heavier than my Hollywood fighting weight, 205, which is what I weighed before I got into radio. But radio, there's just donuts laying around everywhere. It's impossible not to gain weight in radio. So I was about, in that picture, I was a good 250, and it wasn't like a good 250. It was like when you're like, oh, I'm leaning back. No, you're not. You just have a belly,
Yeah.
and you're wearing a
Your double chin had elbows.
Yeah, your
it was leaning. It was making the thinking man's pose. No, it was so terrible. I saw this picture, and I'm pointing, and I'm leaning back, and I'm pointing at someone with a shot in my hand.
And then you had that. You made a whole pyramid from shots.
Oh yeah, the shot glasses. And I was live streaming the entire show on like the first live streaming.
It's like Periscope.
Yeah, maybe on but it was on a computer. It was. I think it might have been. I might have just gone
Oh,
Skype.
stream something.
Yeah, it was some weird thing that I did. Yeah, Streamcom or something.
Stream TV or something like
Bogus stream.
Yeah,
that. I remember that, dude. Yeah, you
And-
streamed it from your computer. That's
and
right.
Were you wearing a blue button up?
Probably.
Those were the blue button up.
No.
days.
I was wearing I didn't wear a blazer. I was just button up guy in khaki, like not khakis, cargo pants.
I think
Yeah.
you're wearing a red button-up, like kind of Western shirt.
I was wearing a red button-up shirt that I stole from my dad. It was not a cool red button-up. It's like you're wearing one that's like definitely made by like a store for younger folks. Mine was like one that came out of like a folded plastic-covered package at Costco, and I was like, he's never gonna wear this. So I stole it from him, and it was way too wide at the bottom because I didn't know what tailoring meant. I didn't know
He
that
had and he was like a 48 waist.
I didn't
at
know
the
that
time.
mattered on shirts. I was just like, well, it fits in the shoulders, it fits in the sleeves. And then you see a picture of yourself, and it looks like you're wearing a maternity gown with a collar.
It's called a moo-moo.
Yeah. And
yeah,
I
the
just-
way it's cut.
A moo-moo.
it just flaps out because you're supposed to tuck it in. You're not supposed to wear it with jeans on stage in Montana. And we almost, I mean, we drank ourselves senseless that night. Then the next year, that's when it got real bad for me. This is when I was moving to Los Angeles from Boston, and I had a Honda, a 1990 Honda Civic that I had bought from comedian Andrew Slater's grandmother for $1,000. And I drove it to Billings first. I drove it to Salt Lake City first, then to Billings. And the first night we were there in Billings, I got so drunk I left my backpack, computer, CDs, everything at the club. I also woke up with someone in bed with me who we didn't hook up. We were fully clothed. She clearly that was on her mind, but I just like I don't remember getting home. So then I ended up throwing up in the bathtub at the hotel, and then you picked me up, and that's where I had to stand with my snow up in the face. And then the next night I kept it together a little better, but it was still every time you guys played that music, I had to take a shot of Jaeger. Finally, at one point in time, I signaled to the waitress. I was like, "Hey, can you not?" Like, she goes, I was like, "Hey, no more." Like, kind of do this, and she's like, "Oh, you want a shot?" She brought up a shot and a garbage can in case I threw up on stage. I was laying down at one point.
Ugh.
I wish I had video of that just because in my mind, I thought I was killing. And it probably was because the crowd at that point was on board with how drunk I was. So they were probably laughing at me, except for like one sober lady who's like, "I didn't pay
Was
for
it like
this."
2 years ago the last time you were there?
It was right after I got fired in Seattle. So yeah, about three or so years ago. And
So that was like the last time I was absolutely obliterated on stage because you and I and Jubal, we would play golf and we're day drinking.
Yeah.
And
Remember
then we
how
just
bad
kept on going.
my back nine was? We played 18 holes of golf, and I got front nine. I just had enough. I had enough booze to be good, and then the back nine, I slammed like another couple drinks, and I was awful. I mean, I think I flung a club into a lake, like I was falling down, and then we had to go do comedy.
No, we went to that little pool thing and drank beer at that little pool.
Oh, that's right.
And then we went, and then we were just like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just keep on going. Then we got ready for the show, and then we went to another bar and drank more. And then we went, that was crazy.
I love those.
Just what we thought.
Playoffs? Don't
Yeah.
talk about playoffs.
Not at all. We were ready to go that night. So how did the Billings Comedy Festival? It's competition still, right? Correct.
It's competition based, but now,
there's like showcases, and it's for everyone to get seen by industry.
Yeah.
How much has it grown? It's become like one of the biggest. I would say probably the top 5 in the top 5 of comedy festivals in the country. Right at this point, I think.
Yeah.
The one in Nebraska, the Johnny Carson one, kind of disintegrated, so that bumped you guys up a spot. I mean, that one was kind of prestigious for a hot minute. I'd say Billings is one of the ones that I hear about where you guys fly people up there, and the industry that goes almost has too much fun. Like they're just as hungover as the performers are every day.
I mean, we gotten to the point now. We in our swag bags. We have all these rehydration stuff. We have
IVs, do it yourself IVs.
Pretty much, because just like everybody just gets wasted. But yeah, we've grown to the point now. We're going into our 7th year, and we've gotten to the point last year where just industry just sends people.
Yeah, they want to go.
We had so many like inquiries of industry wanting to come, and we're just like, sure, it's so many just a lot of networks coming out and agents and managers, and
I mean, every time I've been there, and every time I have, it's always been productive. I believe last time I was there was right before I ended up taking the job in Atlanta. Was when I was out there, and it's always good meetings with network folks, with TV people. It sounds weird, but when you're in Los Angeles, for people who've never been to Los Angeles for like the comedy scene, which I mean I'm sure you haven't, but even experienced it, it's one of those things where yes, you live a mile from every network executive in the world when you live in Hollywood, but they don't see you. They got stuff to do, and if they go to a show, sometimes. In a show in LA, you don't even want to be on like a fancy showcase because you go up and just eat it.
Yeah.
Oh, just eat it.
There'll be like tons of industry people there, and they don't laugh hard, and they're just like there for work. But the thing about Big Sky is it kind of takes that element away.
Right.
And they're just like, oh, we're having fun all day, and then, okay, we're just going to sit and watch comedy for an hour and a half, and then we go back to having fun. So they're really dialed in when they're there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to those shows. Yeah, it is. Industry shows are awful. I've had some terrible ones, man. I still, Kumail Nanjiani is crushing it right now. He had that movie, The Big Sick.
Yeah.
But, man, he buried me on a festival, not in a good way. He buried me in a bad way. Like, he didn't do well on the set. It was the DC Comedy Festival, I believe the first and the only. I've had the prestigious luck, I don't know if you maybe luck or opportunity, to do 2 comedy festivals that are no longer in existence. I did and they were both just train wrecks. The Detroit Comedy Festival. I show up. I'm excited. I'm on the New Faces showcase. It's going to be David Letterman's booker at the time, which was Eddie Brill and all these network people. And it's the 10 o'clock show at the DC Improv. And Tony Rock is on stage, Chris Rock's brother. And he's about to close. Now, granted, they really told him, like, hey, Tony, we really need you to keep the show tight tonight because we get a show afterwards. It's a 10 o'clock show. So Tony Rock, the story that I heard, I walked in as the fracas was happening. Story I heard was he was doing a bit about chicken, about how he loves chicken and about why is that a stereotype associated with anybody when everyone should love chicken. And this super like old white man who looks like he just got done playing polo just flings a chicken wing from the front row, like flings it at him. Like in front of his feet, right? Like the chicken wing lands in front of Tony Rock's feet. Well, now we've got a weird situation because the old white man just flung a chicken wing at Tony Rock. And so they have like a weird, crazy, like turn the show around, like just brought it to screeching halt situation for like the next 30 minutes. And then finally they kick the guy out because the guy's like arguing. It's clearly some rich, and it's DC, so he's probably like some rich dude who works for, some lobbyist or something, or is a lobbyist. And so the show doesn't start till 11:15. And there's 20 comics. There's 10 on the first half, 10 on the back. And I'm like right around 17 on the show.
What a nightmare.
Right around 17 on the show. So I'm not even on stage until 12:40. Kumail Nanjiani goes on before me. And at this point, like Lucas, you've done a 5-minute set for industry. You're like pacing. You're nervous. You're like, remember all your jokes. Don't eat it. Don't forget something. Make sure your set's perfect because I want them to envision me on Letterman. And I go to Kumail goes up and just starts eating it. And then starts trying to pull it out of a nosedive by improvising. But at this point, these people have been sitting in a comedy show, some of them for like 5.5 hours now because they stayed over for the late show for free, which is a terrible idea. And then the people that came are trying to see their friends and then leave. So he does 17 minutes when he's supposed to do 5. Burning the light. A little bit of a full circle there. And then closes up. And then Eddie Brill, the Letterman booker, like storms over to him and starts yelling at him in the corner of the room about how rude it was to do that to the other comics. And the host is just like, next comic, Brian Moote. I go up and just went down in flames.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I thought to myself, hey, if I just stick to my material, they'll respect that. Like they know Kumail just tried to go off the cuff improvising. That didn't work. They're professionals, these comedy industry folks. They'll totally get that I'm trying to pull this thing out of an absolute train wreck, and it was terrible. It was this. That's me. The entire time. Oh! Just all of it. Terrible.
All the bad.
The entire thing. And so that festival ended that year. And then the Detroit Comedy Festival, I did one show at, and it was so bad, I changed my airplane ticket to leave because I was out of the contest already. And I was like, I'm not sticking around for these. I hated it. It was 8 people in my show, and it was awful. And I flew back to Boston. I was so embarrassed I didn't tell anyone that I flew back early, like no comedians, because they all knew I was going out for it.
How'd it go? I already won. I won it all.
Right.
Took it down.
So I got back on Friday, and I went and watched Rambo by myself.
Oh,
Great
man.
movie, though.
The new Rambo.
Oh, the new one.
And it
never
was
mind.
just
Sorry.
me and like 20 dudes all sitting like spaced out far enough so no one would think we're together. Because it was Boston. So now let's talk about, so you got the North Hollywood, before we get out of here, the North Hollywood Comedy Festival is coming up. What are the dates of that? Because you're now been tasked, because you are become the festival guru at this point, Lucas.
Oh, man.
You've
We're
become
gonna tell
not only
everybody.
a comedian, not only an actor, auditioning for things, but now people look to you because you know how to set these things up, and you're respected in that area. So when is it? Where? And it's all going to be at the Haha, right? At that, or is there going to be other venues? Do you know?
Other venues, we got about 5 venues, but the main chunk of the shows will be at the Haha because they've been open for 30 years, and they have helped a lot of comedians get their start, which a lot of people don't realize, and they didn't realize that. I'm like, do you realize how many people have you guys actually helped jumpstart their careers?
You don't want to say that you owe certain venues, but, I mean, I played the Haha for years. It was the first club that I got passed at to do weekend spots, and it was like 2008, 2009, and I would just go sit. I'd sit there on a Friday. I'd text Terry, the manager / owner, every week, hey, I'm open this weekend. Hear nothing. Maybe just go stop by. Maybe she'll think she told me to come by. Sit there like every weekend, because that's what you do, is just sit around. And then you'd see like Gabriel Iglesias walk in, do a spot, like Damon Wayans.
Yeah,
all these monster comics would come through there. And it is all over the walls, all these pictures, because, the same people now sitting in the bar in 10 years could be those comics that walk in. Everyone's like, oh, my God, look at this dude that just came in.
Like, on the scale of pretentiousness, too, it's, like, on the lower end
is,
of the spectrum, which is nice, too, because a lot of those places, like, the comedy clubs won't have you in until you're famous, which is kind of like somebody trying to book you on I've had gone to casting directors and they're like, all right, we really like you for the job. How many Twitter followers do you have?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to tell you that. That's mine. They're mine.
Or they already
They're
look
not
at
yours.
it before you're
That's the
there.
kiss of death right there, man.
But it's also like, then do your job better. Like, what do you need my audience for? Even if I had 1 million, you should still be worried about making a good show before, usurping my week.
That whole Twitter
presence.
follower thing was why I realized why people would buy followers back when that first started. Where you'd be like, how does this dude have 800,000 followers? That's crazy. Now, though, people are such snobs about it that they'll check your Twitter following, but then they'll check to see how much interaction your tweets
Yeah.
get. So if you have 1 million followers and they're all,
And nobody likes
Russian
anything.
Russian bots, and there's like 8 likes and 2 retweets, that they're like, oh, these are all fake.
Or they'll look at, like, say if you have 100,000 followers, but how many people are you following?
Sure.
You know
if
what I
you're
mean? Right.
following 150,000, then it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
Who would have thought there'd be that much snobbery in
Well,
this game?
and
for
also
that?
it still doesn't it doesn't negate the fact that so let's say you have somebody with 2 million Twitter followers and you have a bad project for them to do, and they're not the right pick for it, and they're not really good at what they do, and now you just made a bad product. As opposed to have a good idea for a show, hire the right person for the job, and then not worry about, and then the Twitter followers will come. They will rain down upon you because you've made something good.
And that's really the main core of why I even started the Big Sky Comedy Festival, was because we'd be doing the showcases or whatever for this festival or this festival.
Yeah,
and I'll just-
Montreal, some of these big ones.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, this is brutal. Or they, sometimes some of these other festivals, they kind of already know who they want.
Right.
And
Oh, you never auditioned for Montreal thinking that everyone was on a level
They already
playing
know who
field.
they're going to pick. Because
Oh,
they're
it's
like the same
excruciating.
people who paid
Yeah.
for the festival are the same people who have money sunk into the networks that this
Right.
person's being
Yeah.
looked at by.
And it's
or
like,
the
oh, we
same,
need to
like,
get him here, we
agency.
have this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we give him something that we already have control over,
Yeah.
it would be like me giving myself an Oscar.
Right.
And being like, did you see that I killed it this year? I cleaned up. At
Well,
the
it is nice
Oscars.
that you have. I mean, you're producing it, so at this point, you can put whoever you want in there. And I'm sure. Have you already experienced anybody in the business going like, "Hey, you should look at this guy," or people like pretty hands off?
Especially for big skies, because like I said, we've gotten to the point where we've just grown so much, and even a lot of the industry people is like, you guys are kind of like the new Montreal, new faces,
Right.
because we've really pride ourselves in like looking at every single video from every part of the country and finding Comedy Central after this last year, they sent us an email like, we found people that we didn't even know existed.
Right. That's great.
We have meetings with them. We've already had 2 people. One did Conan, one did Colbert.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're finding and that's the thing I love, is just like finding these people who are, kind of stuck in that city and they're scared to leave. And then you kind of give them just a little push, get them in front of the industry, and then they make the move, and then boom.
It is that part of it has evolved, because I remember there was a black hole era. I think it's changed a little bit with new talent getting TV spots. But one, TV stand up on TV kind of dried up for late night spots. Like I would say right around 2006 to 2010, 2011,
Yeah, it was
where
hard.
they weren't doing much of it. Like Conan wasn't booking a lot. I think Conan had a show for a while. Leno was just putting his friends on. Letterman kind of was too, which I get it. It's their show. Put on who you want to. Put on the same comics all the time. I think the guy who blew that facade away from me was watching Jeff Dye make his run through Last Comic Standing in 2006, and then Montreal. He didn't even audition for Montreal, and they put him in New Faces, and that was the part that made me just want to slap somebody, because I was like, I've auditioned for this festival and gotten a call back and been excited, and then waited and got notes about this and that, and then waited and not heard anything, and then waited and done this, and then seen everyone else aggravating over these auditions. And then Jeff was at my place in Boston. He was on the tour, and they're like, "Hey, we want you to do Montreal in 2 weeks." And he's like, "Look at that, I booked Montreal." And I was like, "I want to slap you or someone else right now."
Yeah.
Could be Boston. Could be the angst I'm living under in this city where everyone's a little bit tense.
And I know, I see it. Like I said, it's like we really pride ourselves on finding those comics. And then, we'd get William Morris, CA. We get those agents sending us emails like, "Hey, take a look at this. Take a look at it." I'm like, and I always say, have them submit.
Right.
If they're
They got to
funny,
submit.
we'll find it. If
And
they're
you don't
funny.
have a submission fee, do you?
And obviously
we
they
do.
don't need
Oh, yeah, you do.
help.
See, go
they
pay
don't
that
need help right
$35.
now.
Go pay that $35.
We
$50.
stayed the same price pretty much. We went from $25, $35, and now it's the last week it's $50.
Well, yeah, but you have costs you have to. Comics are like, why do I got to pay for this thing? What are the tickets? It's there's all this advertising money has to go into the thing. Also, $50, I guess for a comic at the time, sometimes I
But
bitch
if you're
about
complaining
that too, but
about it,
then
means
you're not confident.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it means you're not getting in, and it means you're probably not good
You're
at
not
comedy.
investing
so
in
why don't you
yourself,
get
son.
better
Well-
at comedy, and then these will seem worth it.
Also, I did
because
have
you'll
something,
get
and I think
invited
this
in.
would probably go for every contest in the entire world. If it's free entry, everyone's going. Everyone's applying. If you got to pay even $5, you're going to cut that number down significantly, because people are like, I was just going to do it if it's free. I'm not going to do it for $5. This is ridiculous. it is fun. I had a blast doing it. From what I remember, there's always those nights where I don't remember anything. And I met some of the people that end up like living in Atlanta and doing comedy with. Lukas, thank you so much for hanging out, man. I appreciate you coming in here.
No problem, dude.
Coming into the Amp Radio Studios.
What?
Studio X.
That's what I say.
What's your Twitter handle? Have you changed it?
No, it's all the same. All my social media platforms are also. It's just Lukas, Lukas, Seely.
Lukas Seely.
Just straight up.
At Lukas Seely.
At Lukas Seely for all my social medias.
Follow him. He's super funny.
Get after him.
He'll be doing big stuff. He'll be doing karate movies when the Van Damme reboot or Fast and Furious 29.
He makes good food.
Yeah,
Amazing food.
Yeah, it does.
Our ending, yeah. Well, I signed a development deal with the studio for a food show.
Hey!
Oh, you got to do that right when I start the music? What is it? Tell your quick thing.
Yeah, I just I've been doing these food videos for like freaking 7 years, I think, and then finally got it in front of the right people, and
There we go.
signed a development deal. So we're so close.
So close.
So close.
Man,
So
you've been in that
close.
food game for forever.
I know.
As you should be, man. Your parents will be proud of that. Look at that,
Yeah.
man. You're gonna make it big in the food TV business. Then your dad's gonna be like, I knew it.
Yeah, I've always told you, son.
Be confident. You were never unemployed.
Food
Thanks
will
for
never
listening,
get old.
everybody. Do you want to say something?
Yeah,
Pat?
food will never get old. Like, everybody's got to eat it to survive.
Food never expires.
It'll never go be like blase, you know.
Do you have $1 hanging out in your pocket right now? Do you also have a phone in there? Well, with the 7-Eleven app, you can use that $1 on any size hot beverage, including all coffee blends, hot chocolate, and lattes. Then you can make it yours with any combination of dairy and non-dairy creamers, flavors, and sweetener combinations. Coffee your way for just $1 with the 7-Eleven app, plus tax where applicable, only at participating 7-Eleven locations.